Top of the morning. Good afternoon, YouTube world. It's Coffee tapping back in, and it seems with Gene Hackman situation that had myself and everyone seemingly like, what exactly happened? Did something real grim happen? It's not adding up. There was no carbon monoxide. There was no gas leak. How did these two individuals and one dog who was misidentified? It's just been so weird vibes in this situation. Like, what could have exactly happened, and how did they misidentify a dog, and why was the door open, and why were their remains mummified? It's just been bugged out, man, but it seems to all be clear now exactly what happened. And one thing that this tragic situation really lets everyone know is if you have loved ones or friends who aren't in a good way, like they're not in the best of health or just not doing so good, check up on them.
And testing positive and testing for carbon monoxide was negative.
The causes of death for actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy have been revealed. In a press conference March 7th, Santa Fe County authorities released more information in the couple's passing, including what led to both of their deaths.
The cause of death for Miss Betsy Hackman, aged 65 years, is hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. The manner of death is natural. Autopsy examination and full body postmortem CT demonstrated no findings of trauma internally or externally, with microscopic findings consistent with hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. Laboratory testing was positive for hantavirus at a clinical lab, with required confirmation testing positive at Scientific Laboratories Division. Testing for COVID-19, influenza, and other common respiratory viruses was negative. Testing for carbon monoxide was negative. There were no other significant natural disease findings. Pills present on scene were thyroid medication, which were being taken as prescribed and is not currently a concern for a contributory cause of death. The cause of death for Mr. Gene Hackman, aged 95 years, is hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease as a significant contributory factor. Autopsy examination and a full body postmortem CT examination demonstrated no acute findings of internal or external trauma and showed severe heart disease, including multiple surgical procedures involving the heart, evidence of prior heart attacks, and severe changes of the kidneys due to chronic high blood pressure. Examination of the brain showed advanced Alzheimer's disease, as well as blood vessel changes in the brain secondary to chronic high blood pressure. Laboratory testing performed at Scientific Laboratories Division was negative for COVID-19, influenza, and other common respiratory viruses. Testing for hantavirus was negative. Testing for carbon monoxide was negative. Additionally, there were no autopsy findings concerning for hantavirus infection. I have been asked when death occurred for these individuals. There is no reliable scientific method to accurately determine the exact time or date of death. Mr. Hackman's initial pacemaker data revealed cardiac activity on February 17th, with subsequent pacemaker interrogation demonstrating an abnormal rhythm of atrial fibrillation on February 18th, which was the last record of heart activity. Based on this information, it is reasonable to conclude that Mr. Hackman probably died around February 18th. Based on the circumstances, it is reasonable to conclude that Ms. Hackman passed away first, with February 11th being the last time that she was known to be alive. Lastly, clinically, hantavirus infection is characterized by flu-like symptoms consisting of fever, muscle aches, cough, sometimes vomiting and diarrhea that can progress to shortness of breath and cardiac or heart failure and lung failure. This occurs after a 1 to 8 week exposure to excrement from a primarily particular mouse species that carries hantavirus. The mortality of hantavirus, the mortality rate of the hantavirus strain in the Southwest is about 38 to 50%.
The Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office previously confirmed to NBC News that the 95-year-old actor, who won 2 Academy Awards during his acting career, was found dead February 26th in his Santa Fe, New Mexico home alongside his wife, a 64-year-old classical pianist, and one of their 3 dogs. Authorities said in a February 27th statement, foul play is not suspected as a factor in those deaths at this time. However, exact cause of death has not been determined. Hours later, NBC News obtained an affidavit submitted by authorities to obtain a search warrant that deemed the circumstances surrounding the couple's death to be, quote, suspicious enough in nature to require a thorough search and investigation. The affidavit also stated per the outlet that Arakawa's body, which was found in the home's bathroom next to a space heater and a bottle of pills that was, quote, open with pills scattered on the countertop, was already showing visual indications of decomposition, including, quote, mummification in both hands and feet, suggesting Betsy had been deceased for more than a day. NBC News reports that the affidavit said her husband was discovered in the kitchen area of the house and suspected to have suddenly fallen, adding that he was in a similar state as his wife upon their arrival. Gene and Betsy had been married since 1991.
All right, so Gene Hackman, 95 years old. We've seen the pictures, and it's sad, man, because I wasn't even aware Gene Hackman was that old. Like, the dude had an amazing career. I mean, so many outstanding movies that he was in. Seriously, like, leave it in the comments your favorite flicks by Gene Hackman, just what you thought of him as an actor. We saw Morgan Freeman paying tribute to him at the Oscars. It's like almost made it to 100 years old. It's really something. It was wild, too, with the whole conversation of Morgan Freeman showing love and paying tribute to his fallen friend that, kind of unrelated, but Morgan Freeman, I guess, I never knew that Morgan Freeman didn't really hit the success level that he's known as these days. You know what I'm saying? With the iconic voiceover work and just all the iconic roles he's played as well. He didn't really blow up like that till he was in his 50s. That just kind of blew my mind. You know what I mean? So never stop keeping on. Keep pushing. You never know. But getting back to what I was saying about Gene Hackman, dude was old. He was not in a good way. And you hear his wife passed away first. They're saying on the 11th. There was some reports that came out just a few days ago. I forget what was it. Inside Edition was running with it for the most part. What I saw, that they were able to access the data on his pacemaker that was showing. They were saying originally the last bit of activity on the 17th, but it turns out the 18th there was a little bit more heart activity. So they're saying the 18th was the day that his heart stopped beating. And there is a possibility, though, that he wasn't really there, in a sense, if that makes sense, if y'all feel me on this. That's what's so sad about this, that I was saying you got to check on your loved ones or friends if they're not in a good way, man. This is something, like I was saying originally, the circumstances of both of them being deceased and the one dog, again, that was misidentified. It was not that German Shepherd that Gene Hackman had been seen in photos with. That was one of the 2 other dogs that were outside alive and okay. It was Zena. I forget the kind of breed of dog, a smaller dog that was said to always be attached to the wife's hip. You know what I mean? And she was found on the 11th. So we're talking about a full week in between their deaths. As she was found in a bathroom, again, fell on the floor, a space heater fell down, their rise with her falling, thyroid pills everywhere. And I know someone that takes thyroid medication. When that gets a bit off, it can have all kinds of effects emotionally, psychologically on people. It's real sad. And she had this Hanta virus You see the C19 was negative and everything else all negative. She had this VIRUS that is associated with mice droppings. So I don't know if they had rodents in the home or whatever, but she wasn't in a good way. And if Gene, who we're hearing had Alzheimer's, other kidney problems, I believe he had kidney problems as well, some heart problems himself with the pacemaker and all that. We seen the pictures. That's what I was saying. It's like not how you want to see someone. It was clear from the few pictures that were taken of Gene Hackman when he was out in public with the wife over the past few years. He just wasn't looking good. He wasn't his former self. He was very thin, walking with a cane, just not doing too well. And they're theorizing he fell over, having Alzheimer's, not knowing what's going on, while his wife is deceased upstairs in the bathroom. He's in the kitchen, and she dies the 11th. He takes another week to fade away. Initially said to be the 17th from the pacemaker data, now the 18th, and he just didn't really know what was going on. And so it is very grim and tragic what happened, just not in a type of way a lot of people, myself, were theorizing initially. If like one individual tried to off themselves and the other one did as well, or one did. No, it was just Gene Hackman was not well, old as hell, not in good health. The wife DIEs in the bathroom, and he falls in the kitchen, just laying there, expiring, and both found mummified. Her the 11th, Gene the 18th. And then as for an update for the dog, it's even more fucked up what happened to the dog.
Authorities are sharing new information on how Gene Hackman's dog may have died. During a press conference March 7th, Santa Fe County officials shed light on how the actor and wife Betsy Arakawa's 12-year-old dog Zinna passed away alongside her owners. Santa Fe County Sheriff Adam Mendoza reveals that the Australian Kelpie mix had recently undergone a medical procedure, which could explain why she was confined to a crate in Gene and Betsy's home. New Mexico State Public Health veterinarian Aaron Epps then shares that Zinna, who was discovered in a closed kennel near Betsy's body on February 26th, could have possibly died from dehydration and starvation, with officials explaining that given Gene's Alzheimer's diagnosis, it's, quote, quite possible that he was not aware of his surroundings, including that his wife had died or that Zinna was still in her crate. However, Sheriff Mendoza notes that the canine's official cause of death is still pending. Earlier in the press conference, Santa Fe officials had shared the causes of death for both Gene and Betsy, stating that the 95-year-old died from cardiovascular disease with Alzheimer's as a significant contributing factor. Meanwhile, the Oscar winner's wife of over 3 decades died of hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a respiratory illness transmitted through rodent droppings. However, county officials add that it is highly unlikely that the couple's dog also passed away from hantavirus, as canines don't usually get sick from the disease, and that the illness is transmitted from animals to humans.
So with the dog, right, that what was initially blowing everyone's mind, right? Couples have been found deceased together before, right? But how did the dog pass as well? Well, the dog had just had a surgery, was put in a crate. And man, listen, Gene and the wife's circumstances were really bad, right? She had this Hanta virus, dies in the bathroom. Gene passed in the kitchen, right? But at least the fact, I don't know, comment guys and let me know if you feel this, that maybe the fact that he was kind of out of it, not all the way there mentally, Alzheimer's, that he kind of just faded out of life, expiring. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, is that sound twisted, that maybe there's a little positiveness we can take away from this, that he just kind of faded from existence, and because of his not being all the way there, maybe didn't suffer as much? Or am I tripping when I say that? But with these two individuals passing in that way, the dog is in the crate, just had a surgery, and remains locked in just starvation, dehydration, being locked in a cage. It's just horrible, man. And that's what I was saying, getting back to initially, is if you got friends, family members, grandparents, aunts, uncles that just are not well and live by themselves, they don't have a caretaker or something like that, unfortunately, things like this happen. And it's heartbreaking, it's tragic, but that's something you could take from this, or everyone should think about those that that just are not doing the best. This is what people, the ultimate fear of, you know what I mean? Like those Med Alert necklace bracelet things. You push the button, I've fallen and I can't get up. Yeah, the commercials are type corny and everything like that, but this is what they're like there for, to alert the authorities and responders to know of a situation like this and try and do what they can so people don't DIE under just horrific circumstances like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is terrible. 2 people expiring in the same home and a dog locked in a crate because Gene was not well. He wasn't capable of getting up and using a phone, or might not even been capable of fully understanding what was going on. And it's just it's a shame, and it's terrible for the 2 individuals, but really for the dog, is just to be locked in a crate expiring like that. I just can't even imagine, and I don't want to. It's the type of stuff that is just terrifying, truly. So thoughts and prayers out to all those lives lost. Again, check up on your loved ones, and that is the more clear answer of what exactly happened in that New Mexico home to Gene Hackman, his wife, and the dog. Those 2 dogs that were alive, they were probably hungry as hell. I don't know, doing what they can. They're outside locked in a yard, but it seems they were able to improvise to the best of their abilities under those circumstances to survive, and until a neighbor called in that day to get a welfare check. Let's not forget about that as well. Neighbors, you got a neighbor that isn't doing so well. They live alone. You don't see them around. Maybe knock on their door. You know what I mean? It's kind of an odd situation. You might not want to overstep the boundaries or whatever if you don't know the person that well. But it might feel weird to go knocking on their door and putting your nose in their business. But obviously there's a point in time of not seeing someone who is in that type of situation over a certain length of time, where it's like, yo, maybe I could call it in, or call it in anonymously. You know what I mean? If you feel weird. But I actually had a situation like this, no cap, where I was going to see a woman in her 60s, not by myself, not like that, y'all. But she was actually not in that bad of a situation health-wise, but knocked on her door. She didn't answer. The way certain things looked from visibility within the house and just different stuff like that didn't add up. It's, without getting all into it, it just was weird knowing that person and knowing the way that they lived and kept their home. And went around, knocked, peeked in a window, and seen that person slumped in an odd way. Called it in, and sure enough, they busted up in there, and the person had DIE'd. And this is right before the sickness jumped off. The person was pronounced deceased, and had a funeral, cremated, all within like a 3, 4, 5 day period. That's personally what I want when I go. I want like 3 days to pass, and then I want to be cremated personally and throw my ashes out somewhere. I know nowadays they don't mess with that. In some places it's not actually considered to be legal, really. I got a loved one whose ashes are in a necklace and stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't want to be buried personally. But this person was funeral, cremated, all that, like within a 3 to 4 day period. Loved ones flew in, paid their respects and all that, and the authorities just said, like, yeah, they weren't in the best of health and they died naturally. But what I'm getting at is the sickness officially was announced like a week later, and I think that the person may have had that because they just weren't feeling the best, right? But they were on their feet, out moving around, running errands, going to work and stuff like that. But they just kind of had like a cough, congested, to the point that you noticed. Like someone else that I know was with the individual like shortly before all this, and they had hit a flight of stairs and was like, yo, are you okay? Because the person was super winded, not like them. You know what I mean? This is a person, though, like I said, in their 60s, has smoked cigarettes and all the way up to the end of their life. And, you know, had went through different stages of life, partying and stuff like that. Just a real nice lady who had a lot of wisdom and love and care to give to the world. You know, like we age, and if only we could have those years back to do more with them. But the point that I'm just getting at is it seems that the sickness may have been the culprit of them losing their life. But yeah, man, sad story. Hit the comments with your thoughts again about Gene, his wife, the circumstances of what we've now found out, that poor dog. And if you've ever experienced a situation like that with someone in your life, a neighbor, a friend, a family member. And again, check up on your peoples, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. It's J Coffee Talk, talking music, news, sports, and more. And I'm up out of here, guys. Peace.